The chair of the Senate Capital Investment Committee, Dave Senjem, joins me now to discuss the bonding bill. Thanks for joining us.
It's really good to be here.
Senator, let's begin with the final budget agreement from the special session. It relied on essentially borrowing from schools and by delaying payments and borrowing from future tobacco dollars, and it also included a $500 million bonding bill. So do you think the Senate has an appetite for a bonding bill this session?
Well, I think we're certainly going to look towards doing one at this point. Within the sphere of the budget forecast and the allowance for debt service within this budget we did adopt, it would have allowed and does allow for instance, $140 million the first year. Now we made that $497 million, and then $775 the second year. So if you just sort of do the arithmetic, we've got an ability from the standpoint service of our budget and debt service to do a bill of a little over $400 million.
And you publicly stated that you'd support about a $400 billion or $1 million, bonding bill. Let's talk about that $775 million debt service. The dollar mark that MMB has stated we could go with the bonding bill. How committed are you to staying with that $400 million mark at this point?
Well, maybe just to back up a little bit, for the biennium, there was a forecasted budget amount that would allow us to do, in total, $915 million. We did 497 of that 915. We've got, I think, 418 left out of, if you just do the difference there. So I don't think we necessarily want to, exceed, certainly budget. We'll be looking at the November forecast and the February forecast and what they look like as we make these decisions. But I think, obviously we need to live within the framework of the money we have.
And understanding that things are fluid at this point, the University of Minnesota is expected to ask for, as it prepares its wish list, it's expected to ask for about $270 million as its share of higher ed projects on campus from the state. Traditionally, higher ed has been a top priority in bonding. Do you think it will remain so? And is the U's wish list and that dollar amount realistic?
Well, it probably, they're probably not going to get their wish list, but will the bonding bill emphasize higher education, both the University of Minnesota and MnSCU? I dare say that it will. It always has. I think, we've got major numbers of campuses around Minnesota, about 54 MnSCU campuses, 5 university campuses, lots of roofs, lots of heating systems, lots of things to take care of. And so just given the massive infrastructure that we have within the higher educational system, we have to direct bonding money in large portions that direction.
And the nation is waiting for Congress to either approve or decide to not pass federal legislation that would increase funding for roads, bridges, and buildings. Now, how would that state affect, or how would that decision, affect the state as you put together your priority list for bonding? Do you think if there's more money coming federally for roads, bridges, infrastructure, that perhaps less money could be put into those areas from the state? Just
well,
kind of explain
I think obviously we'll need to look at that and coordinate it. That makes obvious sense. But so many of these things are pretty unique to our Minnesota infrastructure, and I'm not necessarily certain, nor is probably anybody at this point, just how deep some of this federal money will go if in fact it does come. So I think at this point I'd be inclined to say that let's kind of look at the way we usually look at things. If we have some federal money that's going to come into, say, the road, bridge systems or wastewater infrastructure or something like that, why maybe we can back off and reapply it some other place.
Okay, the DFL contends that large bonding bills equal more jobs. Do you agree with that view? And would you be willing to go bigger with the bill in order to get more construction trade workers back to work?
Well, I think we generally don't, no question if you're going to build something, you're going to create some jobs. And then when the building's done, the jobs go away. So in terms of base jobs, I'm not so certain that we ought to be relying on bonding or federal stimulus bills to create jobs. I think we ought to be thinking about, what do we do to make our economy robust, and that's sort of the great argument around here. But I think from our perspective at least, we look at certainly tax climate, regulatory climate. What can we do to get Minnesota moving in the private sector job creation area? Bonding, is a small part of that, but certainly not something to be relied on.
And of course, around the Capitol, there continues to be whispers about a Viking Stadium. Could you see a stadium being included in a bonding bill, or would that be a separate bill altogether? How do you see this playing out?
I don't see it in the bonding bill, unless there are appropriation bonds. You know, the bonding bill generally relies on general fund money to pay the debt, and I think there's general agreement that a Viking Stadium is not going to be built with general fund money. So. It's either going to have to be some sort of a user tax. I happen to be one that suggests and will suggest that the application of Racino to a Viking Stadium solution is one we ought to look at, and so we'll have that conversation going forward. I'm sure of that.
And as a member of the Senate Republican Caucus, what are you hearing about a potential special session for a Viking Stadium? Anything at this point?
Well, honestly, at a member level, we don't hear a lot. We're back home, spread across the state. We don't have the ability to, except for telephones, to get online and talk to each other about this. So it's a little disjointed. We can only hope that those people, if there's to be a stadium, are gathering up someplace and putting a package together, and then we'll take a look at that and see if it's got wings or not. If it doesn't, why, if it's not going to fly, why, we'll have to think of something else. But I know people are working on it.
Okay, Chair Senjem, of course, we'll track the bonding bill as it's progressing through the legislature next session. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.